What's good, shark people? Back at you again with another night of programming. This is Friday night's programming, right? That's July 25th. We got three new shows. First one up is Great White Reign of Terror. That's with Ryan Johnson and Gibbs Cougaroo. Andy Dandy Casagrande also appears in this show. We also got our second show, which is Florida's Death Beach. That has Forrest Gallant, right? And then our third one, we have Bull Shark Showdown with Dr. Craig O'Connell and Paul DeGelder. All right, so let's swim right into it. Let's talk about our first show, which was Reign of Terror, the Great White Reign of Terror. This is basically studying great white behavior changes, or should I say location changes in Southern Africa, right? So if you've been, kept up to date in the shark community, what was going on, recently in the past, we've had two black and white unwanted guests that have moved into the area, right? Which has caused a big commotion in the shark community. So, namely, Port and Starboard, right? Two large killer whales that moved into that area and began to hunt white sharks. This then affected great white shark behavior. It pushed all of the sharks out of the area, and then those sharks seemingly had to find new hunting grounds, right? In this show, they basically explore, it's not so it is still Southern Africa, but it's the southeastern coast of Southern Africa. Because they have a number of new shark encounters, shark attacks, actually, that have occurred in that area, and they're trying to uncover the reason why, right? Now, this again is linked to public fear because that area has experienced a number of fatalities and negative shark interactions in the past, right? It actually had a name for it. They called it Black December. This occurred in 1957, where you had 6 dead, all right, in a fairly short period of time. So to prevent that from occurring again, we have our shark scientists that are coming out and investigating what exactly is going on, right? Is this the new hunting ground for those same white sharks? Are the sharks migrating between two or more points? Can they identify some of these individuals? So just speaking on it, this show was pretty interesting and the science was solid. Ryan Johnson and Gibbs Cougaroo, I'm just going to call them Ryan and Gibbs, phenomenal scientists. Just from seeing how they operated, extremely poised. They clearly identified their problem, set a plan in motion, and acted, right? Shout out to Gibbs, especially he seems very mild-mannered and well-spoken, just like comfortable in front of the camera, and very clearly able to explain what's going on. So I really appreciated that. From a scientific standpoint, the show was very solid. It wasn't very flashy. It wasn't necessarily for the entertainment. This was a science show. So if you enjoy the science, definitely check this one out. So for our second one, we have Florida's Death Beach, right? This was with Forrest Gallant. Now, if you know about Forrest, you already know that this show is going to have some fun in it. All right. To start off, they actually interviewed a surfer that got attacked, right, in the area, right? They called him Gnarly Charlie, right? Excellent name. And then when you meet the guy on camera, he has a bunch of personality. You can see why he's like a local legend in that area, right? But this show is not exploring the typical, right? Now, hearing this, you might have assumed, oh yeah, great whites. Nope. Surfing in this case actually was talking about black tips, right? So they've realized that in this area, there's been an increase in black tip negative interactions, right? As a matter of fact, black tips actually do have a number of negative interactions with humans, just because of the frequency that you might interact with black tips normally. Like they're a very abundant species, so you find them fairly easily. and they're typically close to shore or close enough to where humans are swimming, diving, surfing, wherever it is, to where it's an increased likelihood of you encountering one, right? Um, Now, although this was Forrest's initial investigation, he brought in Tristan Guttridge. You already know, solid science, but also entertaining. I would say that this show was much more balanced as far as entertainment and science, and just trying to uncover what it is that's causing these black tips and humans to have these negative interactions. So definitely worth a look. Um, go for it. All right, definitely fun. But they did run into some snags. This show kind of highlighted the difficulties with doing oceanic research, which is the ocean's a big place. And just because you're going out and looking for something, it doesn't mean you're going to find it. They actually had a very difficult time trying to find the target species. So they, like, think about it. First of all, they were in like tropical waters, right? So this was, if I remember correctly, I believe this was Florida, right? So subtropical, right? They found a great white before they found a black tip. I'm gonna put that out there. Like, it was not an easy find. It wasn't easy science. It wasn't romanticized for the cameras, and for that, I actually appreciated it. Right. Um, I'm also gonna say that they had some solid scientific equipment. They used a portable satellite. This like the technology behind that was like very ingenuitive. More so, it's just so that you have a satellite closer to your receiver, so you can bounce those signals back and forth in a much easier, much faster pace without having to worrying about a satellite in orbit, right? And allows you to store that data in a much more efficient way, right? I'm not exactly sure how expensive something like that is, but it does seem like something that's worth having, especially if you're doing, I want to say extended or extensive research, to be honest. They also had a really good decoy. Like, that decoy was very believable. So, yeah, it seemed like they put a lot of work into this show. So definitely appreciated that. Now, our last show of the night. This one was almost exclusively for entertainment purposes, right? Which was surprising because I'm not used to seeing Craig O'Connell in that light, right? It's like I'm used to seeing Dr. Craig O'Connell very serious, very about his work. Um, like he has personality, but you don't see him in like jovial spirits, right? So this show was just pure fun. Bull Shark Showdown. When I first heard the title, I was confused on exactly what the show was going to be about. I knew it was going to be about bull sharks, but I didn't know the angle, right? This was actually a versus match between the United States and Australia. So you ended up having, they wanted to compare the two populations, the population of bull sharks in the Americas and the population of bull sharks in Australia, right? And that in itself is very interesting because we do recognize that even though they may be the same species, and this is not just about bull sharks, but populations of different areas have different characteristics. So having an opportunity to compare this was actually pretty dope. All right. So you had Dr. Craig O'Connell, of course, representing America, USA, and then Paul de Gelder representing Australia. Now, this was a very fun watch. It was full of personality. They did a number of tests on the bull sharks to compare the two and see which population was superior, right? I will tell you this. All right, so Paul is the star of this week's Shark Week. I'm not gonna lie. The jokes here, solid. Um, they actually introduced Paul as a bull shark's favorite chew toy. And I was not expecting that. Like, oh man. He even said, I've been inside one. I know how they think. I was like, yo, Paul is a riot, man. Like, I see why you're an inspirational and motivational speaker, because hearing how you come back from that shark attack is pure gold. Um, yeah. So here's what they did, right? So they had three different tests, right? They had first test, which was chomp factor. Basically, they measured the bite force between the two populations, right? Your second test was aggression. They basically measured the testosterone levels between the U.S. and Australian populations. And then your third one was reaction speed, right? So I'm not going to spoil it, but what I am going to say is they bet tattoos. So the loser of the challenge between Dr. Craig O'Connell and Paul DeGelder, the loser had to get a tattoo of the winner's choice. Listen, this was a very fun watch. As far as how much I enjoyed it, it was definitely more entertainment, but the science behind comparing two populations of the same species was definitely interesting for me. This was my favorite show of the night. All right. I love Paul DeGeldo already, but this just further solidified him in the Shark Week Hall of Fame. All right. Definitely a very fun watch. So I would advise to check this out. If I was to have to rate all of these, right? Great White Reign of Terror, on a 1 to 10, I would give it a 6.5. Florida's Death Beach. I would give it a 7. And Bull Shark Showdown, 7.5. All right. They're not super far apart from each other, but a solid night. All right. So keep on swimming, my peoples. Be great. And I'll see you tomorrow. We have one more night of Shark Week. Let's see what it has in store.